I know you're autistic, but I don't think of you, I think of you as Cal.
So, what it was like for me as a parent when I found out that you were on the autism spectrum, it was a realization that took place over a period of time, probably some months when you were a toddler, maybe 2 or 3, and it was something that it wasn't hard for us to accept. It was more, in some ways, a little bit of a relief because it explained the reasons for some things that we were or were not seeing, that we were expecting to see from a child at that age, based on just what we heard from friends and was expecting.
Well, I will admit there are definitely some differences.
That's okay. You can be open about it.
For me, when we first hired you, I was really excited because it was a challenge for me. I had never had the experience of working with someone who was autistic, but I was excited for it.
One thing that I've learned or come to appreciate more is, well, I would say I've become a more empathetic person by being the parent of someone who has autism.
I'm certainly not an expert on autism, and I don't really know a lot about it. If I had to guess, I would say it seems like sometimes your social cues are different than other people's. But it doesn't really change the way I work with you.
I think what was the most challenging for us was when you got to be more of the age where kids become social, right? So maybe late elementary school, when we started to see things diverging a little bit in terms of your social development and your peers. And definitely we enjoyed, there were a lot of pluses during that time. You had some unique strengths, like intellectually. You had some mathematic abilities and things like that other kids didn't have at the time, that were interesting and just we enjoyed. But as you got older, and advancing into teens and things like that, that was a little bit more challenging for Dad and me, and I think it still is. Well, speaking for myself, is just because kids that are in their late teens, there's a general expectation in society that they can conduct themselves with in a certain way, and that didn't always fit with how you conducted yourself.
What challenges do I pose as an autistic person?
You personally?
Yes.
In my opinion?
Be honest.
Sure. I believe the challenges that we currently face are, I think we've talked about this, every week, is sort of just the getting wrapped up in a current situation and then having to sort of catch up, right? So sort of rushing through things or moving very quickly or thinking about a bunch of things at one time and then wanting to get everything done.
I actually think that part of your, at least something that I see as part of your autism, is makes you very honest, and I really appreciate that. I like that.
When I see people acting differently, I'm more understanding and definitely sympathetic. I think I've always been a pretty sympathetic person, but it's definitely broadened my horizons.
You say what you think, and I think that's partly your personality, but I also think maybe that's partly your autism. But I think more people should say what they think. More people should speak their mind, because then we'd all know where we stand with those people, right?
What's been more challenging, being your parent, now that you're a young adult, is sometimes you might have some issues that any person could have, whether they're on the autism spectrum or not, but yours are a little bit more pronounced, and it just can be difficult to understand, is he hung up on that because he's just a stubborn person, or it's a teenage developmental thing, that he's being a little bit defiant about, or is it a function of the autism?
There definitely were some challenges. Like, there are some tasks that I would normally ask someone else to do that I have to, I kind of feel like I want to keep an extra eye on you while you're doing them, just because, I know that there's some level of, danger involved, and I don't want to see you get hurt, as well as I don't want to see someone else get hurt. and I don't always have the time to.
Well, thank you for being honest about that.
Yeah, it is something with me, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I really, I feel like since you've started, I've learned a lot as to what it means to have someone employed with me by me who has autism. But I do feel like everything that I've learned is basically shown me that, anything that I can ask someone else to do, you can handle it the same way without any special needs. You are fantastic at what you do.
I think some challenges that you've come a long way with would be communication. That has been nice. I've had the benefit of working with you from the very beginning, right, doing links and then up through this point, and there are so many things that have been nice to see you improve on and develop as your time as a college student. And I think one of the early on things was that communication, was adapting to a new schedule. So I think we struggled a lot with finding a new routine, both in the summer and then again in the fall. But I think as the semesters have gone on, you've become a lot, you've been a lot better at adapting to new classes and new routines.
One thing that people who know you most agree on, people who really get to know you, is that they come away better people for knowing you.
If somebody ever said to me, what's it like to work with a person with autism, I mean, you're my only experience. So those are the kind of positives that I would pull out. I don't think of any negatives, at least none that I've ever seen with you. I know you're very meticulous about your work. I know that you like to do a good job and you like to succeed, and I think that's a great quality to have in any employee, whether you're autistic or not.
Here we are, and you have a lot of great traits, and I think, the fact that you have a job, Dad and I are obviously extremely proud of that, especially the fact that you got it all on your own. And I have to admit, one of the things that made me most proud, Cal, was that you went out and you got that job on your own. And even though I was supportive and encouraging early in the process, by the time you were looking for that job, I did not think it was going to happen. And I was wondering, why is he bothering with that? Thinking, I don't think it's going to come through. And then all of a sudden it did. And I know maybe it might have been a little bit tricky at the start, being your first job and having some challenges. But, it sounds like overall you've been successful, and we're proud of that and everything you've done. So anyway, that's what it's been like, and looking forward to seeing more of what you have to create and contribute.
I've seen you grow a lot since you started with us, and I've seen myself grow a lot because of working with you. My patience, I was never the most patient person in the world. However, working with you, it has really, opened my eyes and, shown me the type of gratitude that you've shown us for what we do when we help you. It's just incredibly eye-opening as to what it means to be a good person to us and what it means for me to be a good boss.
And I think that people who take time to get to know someone on the autism spectrum, or multiple people on the autism spectrum, will find that it enriches their lives.
I can't exactly remember when I realized I was autistic. It must have been middle school or early high school. And I had never really felt autistic. I mean, I had never really felt like I had a mental condition that changed my life. Although remembering that I wasn't always as social as other people in middle school I would often sit alone at the lunch table and, elementary school. I would often sit alone at the lunch table in elementary school or be alone at recess, and that knowledge seems to make that fact rather seems to make more sense now. So I can't remember when I realized I was autistic, and I never felt autistic, but when I did learn I was autistic, some parts of my past made sense. I don't often think about the fact that I'm autistic. I just live my life as it is, just going about. I suppose I still might be less social and people might realize that. I suppose if I'm off in space, people might realize that, although I do think I've gotten better and I can focus better. And I think that part of my quirks might be that I'm energetic. I know that I speak a lot because I don't want to blend into the crowd, and to me, speaking often has kind of been a way of standing out. I figured that the more I said, the more, how do I put it? The more I could, how do I put it? Well, stand out is really the best word. There aren't many other words for it. I think I really just wanted to be recognized in a crowd. I suppose autism has affected my ability to get a job. I might act a bit, I don't know, more eccentric, more offbeat, at least relatively. I've done my best to kind of act normal. I think most people can tell that I'm autistic with a little bit of notice, but I don't think that's a massive game changer. I think other students treat me fine. They never treat me as if I'm anyone different. They just treat me as if I'm as if I'm like everybody else. And I don't want to be like everybody else in the sense that I'm a conformist. But they treat me the same way that they would a non-autistic person. And the same can be said of other people. They never treat me differently because I'm autistic. I do feel I fit in on campus and I have made friends.